Hello, it's Alden. Welcome to part 2 of making a toon-style animation in Blender. In part 1, we did our Blender setup and renders, and now we're going to composite everything together in After Effects. So here we are in After Effects. Let's import our renders. So go into the base layer, import as image sequence. I'm going to repeat this step for. So let's start with our base layer, move this up to comps. Duplicate it in V2. We're going to bring in the base layer with the shadow. So here are our two versions, one with just, the base color, and then one with the shadow added. We're in 1080p, so if we zoom in, we're starting to get some pixelation. I would probably be doing this in 4K if I were doing an actual project for something, but here we are. So now let's bring in our left light and our right light. So these are, transparent and black and white layers. So there's a couple of things we can do. One, we can use these, combine these and add some shadow. So if we duplicate them, turn them on, set the top one to add, pre-compose them, move all attributes, shadow luma, bring this down, set this to multiply, and then bring our intensity down. That's going to give us some shadows created by these lights. We can then go to our base layer and use something like geometry. Color wheels, maybe like bring down our highlights. Something like this. And here we have something that's kind of like looking a little bit more like this that we could have just rendered out on our own. But here is, one way you can add those shadows. And then if you wanted to, you can kind of like bring the opacity down on that to like add some variation. Let's say you wanted the left light to be bright and the right light to be a little more dim. You could do something like that. You can really do whatever you want. So the other thing we can do here, is let's take a solid. Let's make it kind of a cyan blue color. And let's set the track matte to the left light and change it to Luma. And there we can see we have a blue light there. So if we add another solid, let's make it kind of orange. Okay. Do the same thing with the right lights. There we have some orange lighting. I'm going to take these two matte layers. I like to just change the color here to cyan, just so I can like look really quickly and see that these are going to be just like mattes for these ones. This is After Effects 2023, which uses pick whips to do the track mattes instead of just using the layer above it, which is nice because then you can, set multiple things to the same track matte here. Now, this is just a color overlay. So what we might want to do is either bring down the opacity a little bit or set it to something like multiply, or screen, or add, or, hard light, or soft light. Until we find something that, makes the most sense for what we want this look to be. You can also take this base layer and I'm going to just bring the exposure down a bit. You might also want to render out a pass with just the outlines so that you can add that on top. So I'm going to duplicate the base layer. Let's isolate it for a second. Turn this off. Add some levels. And I'm going to kind of just boost up the black and white here. And then go to Find Edges. Tint. Levels again. And if we set this to multiply, add a little fast blur, 0.5 in, level again. We can get some more lines in there, and this is some lines too on our materials that we didn't really have before. So by the way, that was just me cutting some corners instead of just rendering out another pass here where I'm going to make our character just emissive white, have our line art turned on, and also it has the solidify turned on, and this is going to give us just some outline. So I'm going to render this out and pull it into After Effects. So what I should have done is, render out this pass with just the outlines, and then here in the comp, I can drag this on top of the solids, set it to multiply, and then we'll have some outlining on top of the shading color. So this is how we get those outlines back. One thing that other technique using Find Edges does, which is nice, and will come up in just a second in the tutorial, is adding another edge along the division between where there is light and shadow, which is really cool, and I think makes it feel even more like a toon-style than just even adding these outlines here. I'm going to duplicate our base layer again. Call it halftone, solo it. I'm going to use this sapphire halftone effect. This is from Boris Effects. There's a link in my in the description below with an affiliate link of how you can get some of these Boris effects, but this is a really great halftone tool. So if we adjust some settings here, let's kind of turn this up. And then I want the halftone to be only over the shadowed areas, not the lit up areas. So if I use this shadow luma here, choose luma, inverted, it's maybe something like this, and then set this to multiply, I'm going to end up with some, wait. I just need to invert the luma matte setting here on the halftone layer. Some halftone textures only where there are shadows. Add an adjustment layer, call this film glow. Going to use the Boris Effects film glow effect. And that's going to just add some glow to our highlights. Let's bring the intensity down to like 25, maybe the radius down to 15. Now I'm going to add some outline edges to where the shadow and light meet. Let me take this shadow luma, duplicate it, turn it on, bring it up. I'm going to find edges. Then also add a levels effect and make some adjustments here so we just have the outlines where we want them. And then set it to multiply. And so that adds the kind of outline edge right on this border between light and shadow, which to me gives it, like I think I mentioned before, a really cool toon look in a way that you can't really get in Blender. I've tried, using those ramps for the shadow and light and trying to make a thin edge border between them, and it just didn't work. But this is the way that I found to get it to work pretty quickly. So now let's duplicate the adjustment layer. Let's add some film grain also with Boris effects on top of that glow. Just going to make a dark gray background beneath it so that we can see that grain and over that glow. Another thing we might want to do is add some time. So find posterized time. Let's set it to 12. And that's just going to give it more of a kind of toon-styled look. So that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to model and render out some of the background and then in Blender and then meet you back in here. Great job finishing part 2 of how to make a toon-style animation in Blender. Now join me in part 3 where we make the background of the shot, render out different layers, and then composite it together to get this final shot.